She's from Wellington.
Oh, okay, I get it.
She graduated from Wellington High School in the 6th grade.
I wish they would have.
Darren, you got that thing? Darren, you got that thing?
Yeah, I chose to, pay for Chelsea's gas.
And we are live.
All right.
What I would have thought was.
Okay, welcome everybody to our a general session of our monthly school board meeting. It is July 15th, 2020. It's 5 p.m. in the afternoon. All board members are present, plus one. Superintendent's here and the business office administrator is here. If you'll all rise with us and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. In reference to that plus one board member here, I don't know which one's the plus one.
So we're a mess.
Yeah, we're wearing masks, so I can't tell. But we have both Melanie Fawcett and Melissa Swenson with us. Melanie has, due to a change in residence location, has resigned from the school board, and Melissa Swenson has been appointed to the school board. So by way of introduction there, but we tried to get Melanie to come in private so we could recognize her and make her embarrassed, but she decided she wanted to do it in public.
And be embarrassed.
No, actually, she couldn't come when we wanted her to come. And so we're grateful that you're here. And in recognition of that, we have several things, first of all, that we would like to present you with. So if you want to come up, and then we'll just take a moment or two for each board member to thank you for your service. Now, Kristen, do you have anything particular to say about what you're giving her, or we'll let you go first? Oh, look.
Hold on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Now, it's been forever that you would not let people sit down.
You know, we really sort of had the time of our life, so our gift is kind of intended to remind you of that. Every single one of us will have something that they really appreciated about you. You know, for me, now I'm just giving, especially Jeff, fodder to tease me for the rest of my life. But since you were a student and I was a teacher, I can't tell you what a thrill it is to see the people that you teach just do such great things. And on the board, I have appreciated your creativity and your real caring about students and just your willingness to do so much work. Like, you created new programs, like when the graduating seniors went to elementary schools. I don't think I was prepared for how much those little kids were impacted by that. They were thrilled to death. You did a readathon at Creekview, and I agreed to help you, and I had no idea how old I was till you stay up till midnight with third graders. It's just unbelievable. You got high school kids to connect with people in the nursing home. You just did so many things that made me proud of you. And I hate you to go, but you know, life just comes, and I hope that you and your family will be so happy. And stay in touch, we care.
Yeah.
7.5 years, you've had to, I don't know what the word I'm looking for, take a lot of grief from me.
Endure is what I was.
Endure, okay. But I appreciate your willingness to endure all of my childish references and whatnot, but more so than that, your passion for excellence, for student learning, for opportunity for our kids. I know you care, and I think caring is probably the greatest asset any board member can have when dealing with people's children. So thank you very much.
Lee,
It's been so nice to get to know you, Melanie. It's been a great ride, and I do appreciate you putting up with Jeff. I know that's been tough for you.
setting an example for us all.
Yes, I appreciate that. And all the things that Kristen had mentioned, I think those are all great things that you've done and helped out with the board, and I do appreciate all that you've done, and you have to keep in touch with us.
And thank you, Melanie. Thank you for your unwavering honesty and caring. I think that's what most describes you, is always count on Melanie to know what she's thinking and understand how deeply she cares about it. Appreciate that so much. So good to work with people who do not have hidden agendas, that you know exactly what's going on. What I personally can't think of a greater compliment in public service. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Happy trails. Don't make yourself scarce.
All day long, I thought about you guys having your day-long meeting and how much I will miss that. All of the things that I've learned, like as we were getting ready and I asked Lindsay if she would come with me, and she said, don't you get nervous to go to these? And I said, I remember being so nervous and having to write down every little thing that I thought I was going to say. And through the 7.5 years, you guys have helped me with a lot of confidence, and you guys have taught me a lot. I find myself critiquing my nurse's notes like Jeff does. I laugh to myself at misspellings, and I feel like I want to correct their nurse's notes. And I've learned a lot from each one of you, and I can't tell you that in your little notes, but I'll miss a lot of it. And thank you. Thank you for I think the community also for letting me serve. It was fun, and I feel like as a board, we learned each other's differences and likes and dislikes, and we learned to work with that, you know, and we worked well together, and I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just mention one thing real quick?
No.
I did share this earlier with Melanie, but I think the public needs to know, this is somebody who's served in 96 board meetings, ought to get some kind of medal. And then she's been to 12 two-day conferences that are full of meetings all day long. And then the number of policies that she's worked on, we have no idea, but we estimate that it's around 200 at least that she has, worked on over her tenure. So amazing work on all levels. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Did you receive anything, Darren? I don't. Are we missing anybody here for a public comment? Okay, well, let's move on to board member reports then. Jeff, actually, why don't we start with you while we're still on the public comment section?
I'm going to take this off for a second because I've been asked on behalf of Mr. Butler to read a letter that came to the board that he would like to have this as part of the public record. It says, I talked to Mr. Richens last night, this would be on July 1st, and wanted you all to know that I am in no way wanting any member of the administration to lose their job. I'm well aware that athletics has the ability to bring out the worst in us as parents. I understand this and am willing to work with any parent when emotions run high. I showed up to the meeting Wednesday in hopes of having a better understanding of why I was fired. This means fired as the basketball coach, for anyone who's not aware. I am still as confused today as I was Wednesday. We were given a list of expectations as a coaching staff. We feel that we were already meeting and even exceeding those expectations. The first was concern over summer workouts. We have had summer workouts when we were allowed, but I have a pretty specific philosophy on that. One that Mr. Winfrey has previously agreed with, but now states that he disagrees. The second concern concerns communication. We have great communication both collectively as a team and also on an individual level. And I do have dated text messages that would attest to the fact. The third concern is the hardest one for me. The expectation is that coaches should be positive with players. This was the first reason I was given for my firing, that I was too negative, degrading, and not positive enough. Accusing me of this is nothing less than slander. We have worked hard to establish a good reputation. We have prided ourselves with the way we have treated kids and the way we have expected our players to treat those around them. We have never degraded a kid. We have coached kids. We have pushed kids to be better, but never degraded. I know we all have room for improvement, but this accusation was completely unfounded, unfair, and frankly hypocritical. As you all know, many false rumors have been spread as to why we were fired. It will take a lot of time to restore our reputation to what it was prior to this event. We hope our actions with the support of the community will convince those who don't know us that these rumors were completely false. Our main concern is that this doesn't happen in the future to others. I truly appreciate your support as a school board, and I hope that in discussions about this with Mr. Hatch and Mr. Winfrey, you guys are able to find more answers than I could. I, like many others, have lost trust. I would hope that all employees, including teachers and classified employees who have supported us, including myself, can have confidence that they won't have repercussions based on this event. I personally can work with Principal Winfrey, but others may feel differently. Some are even encouraging me to take this to the ethics board. However, I know you guys will do what is best for the future of Carbon High and Carbon School District. I understand there are different protections for teachers and at-will employees, but I feel this is an ethics issue that needs to be addressed. My desire is to put this behind me and to move on, so I don't want to attend a meeting. I do, however, want this to be a matter of public record. So I'm asking that this gets read aloud during a school board meeting. I am more than willing to have a civil working relationship with these two gentlemen. I want to do what is best for kids. That's all I have ever wanted. I hope we can work together to love, teach, and hopefully coach them. As far as our decision to come back to coaching, I've been unable to contact Coach Stevenson. He is out of cell service fighting fires. Once we have talked to him, we want to resolve this as quickly as possible. One thing I intended to, but neglected to address at the meeting is the firing of Wade Williams. I can't pretend to know or understand the reasons for his firing, nor is it my business. However, my fear is that he was fired to make the firing of me more justified. If that is the case, I would hope the school board would make it right. The Wade Williams I know is an amazing man. Sincerely, Jared Butler. P.S. I am quick to forgive, forget, and move forward. That is what I hope we can do in this matter. Cammie and Moj feel the same way. So, I read this at the request of Mr. Butler. I would just like to point out further that lots and lots of apologies have been extended and accepted. I think the whole situation, we're trying to move forward, and the board as a whole are working with the superintendent and the principal to put things in place to make sure, to ensure that procedures are followed and things don't just happen again in the future for teachers, for coaches, for classified employees, or whatever the case may be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Lee?
The only thing I have is I was happy today we was working on the school reopening plan. And I'm hoping we can get this moving forward and get everybody feeling better about opening school, and hope we have a great year. And I don't know about excited, but I hope that it all works out for the best. I think we have a good plan in place and looking forward to moving that.
Good. I turn in your inboxes in your email is a little note from Darren with a link to the closed meeting training that's required to happen annually, and we actually need to not just do it, but receive a certification that we've done that. So please do that, print off the certification and get it to Darren. He has to have it by next board meeting.
You can email it, just the email copy of it. It prints out a little certification page as you finish and just forward that to me.
Okay.
So make sure that everyone does that, because you have to have that in order to
Be on the board.
be on board. Yeah. Kristen,
All of you know I love the arts, and I was really excited, especially for two elementary schools in our area. There is a program that has been offered with the financial help of the Helper Arts Committee, and there will be a virtual ballet class, I believe, for third graders, and they expressed a willingness to work with Creekview Elementary and Sally Morrow Elementary because they've worked with them before in other programs. It's a virtual ballet program. Just occasionally they will have a real in-person visit to the school. So I'm going to get the information to the superintendent and he will distribute that. But I just think that would be so fun if you were a third grader. Be a ballet dancer,
I think there's
especially
one,
if you were a guy.
I think there's one condition on that both Melanie and Melissa and you, all three of you, are part of the demonstration team when you're at the respective schools.
You got it. As long as we get pink tutus with
Yes, that's,
sparkles.
yeah, you required that you wear sparkly tutus.
I think it sounds like a really fun idea though. Yeah, just in a circle, round and round.
Melissa, I saved you for last so you could think for a second.
Thank you. As a newbie, my intention is to listen and learn for a while. So you probably won't hear a whole lot from me at this point. Melanie, thanks. I've got big shoes to fill. So I appreciate your comments. I'm excited to hopefully get the school reopening going. I think, well, I know that students, parents, and faculty are anxious to get back into the buildings and see each other and join together for some educational opportunities, which we all want, so.
Okay, all right. Superintendent.
Well, for my report, I was wondering if, in lieu of my report, it would be a good time for someone to take an oath of office.
Okay, all right. That wouldn't be a bad idea. So Melissa, if you'll come up front with Darren, Darren will serve as an officer of the board.
Yeah, with the flag in the background.
Yeah, and he'll administer the oath of office to you.
You're on. So, you guys, if you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Melissa Swenson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will perform my duties
and that I will perform my duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Thank you.
You'll be like that.
Oh, I have to sign
I'll
that.
bring it to you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you-
Okay, Well, let's move on to the information and discussion. We've got Head Start lease on there.
Yes, I met with Carrie Allred, who runs the program, and she wants to express deep, heartfelt gratitude to the Carver School District for their hospitality. Over the last several years, they've been using our facilities at Wellington Elementary for a Head Start program. And she explained to me some things that are happening in her program. For example, the USDA regulations that have, I don't completely understand this 100%, but because of the location and the situation that they're in, they're having to pay about $400 to $600 per month to feed adults, just because of the way the program is run. And if they had to consider an additional monthly lease, which is what we were considering, then her costs would be pretty high. She said the thing is that they have an empty classroom in Price, and most of the students attending that Head Start are actually from Price. So she's been getting pressure from parents to move into that empty classroom. So she feels like now would be a great time to make the move, and she's decided to do that. And then they, the other thing is they have a fenced playground there, which has always been an issue at Wellington. We can't do that. And so again, she just wanted to express appreciation. They are going to move into that empty classroom and vacate Wellington Elementary before the school year starts.
Okay, thank you for that. No wonder you put off our question earlier today
Yeah.
with that.
So the board want to take a public comment?
Let's absolutely.
So Joyce Larson has wanted to address the board about reopening of schools, and I'll let her. Thank you.
Very timely, since that's the next thing on our agenda. So good timing.
Thank you.
actually.
I apologize. I just got off of work and happy to be able to come in here and address all of you. I guess my biggest concern with the reopening of the schools and wearing masks is multiple fold. I have lots of issues with that. The first,
I'm
go
so
ahead.
sorry. Now I made you really nervous in the whole day. I
That's
interrupted your groove here. Will you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us why? Are you a professional, a parent, and your role?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Joyce Larson. I live over in Westwood. I have 3 children that are going to be attending school within the district, one at Mark Harmon, one at the Casa Valley Center just over the hill, and then I also have a preschooler that's going to be attending preschool at Creekview. I, at this point, just want to address as a parent. I have, a job that's not, I guess, really relevant. This is kind of just my opinion and my thoughts. With having a child over at Casa Valley Heights or Casa Valley Center, he has an IEP. And that means that he has special education needs. Those special education needs require him to have speech therapy and some learning disabilities. And I, noticed that some of you have masks on, and I fully 100% respect your choice to have a mask on. If my son were here and was trying to look at you talking, he couldn't tell what you were saying, how his mouth needs to be forming those words so that he can make the same sounds you do. He can't do that. He also has a hard time remembering things. The rote that goes along with school is difficult for him, which is why we chose that school for him to go to kindergarten. And hopefully, God willing, he'll be able to go to first grade over at Creekview with my other children. But with the mask on, that prevents the personal connection that he is going to need to be able to connect with his teachers, to trust them, to be able to have them give him the right instruction so that he can have a successful life. My middle schooler, she's starting 6th grade. She's a very social person. She's a very social butterfly. having a mask on her face is going to prevent her from being able to enjoy her friends and have a good time. I understand the concerns that happen with this virus. It's devastating. It's causing lots of problems worldwide. But I think that our children need a little bit more than just having a mask on and staying 6 feet away from their friends. This has been devastating. Trying to do homeschooling with 3 children, making sure they know what they're supposed to know, and for the teachers to have to go along and enforce that mask. I know my 5-year-old is going to be taking that thing on and off all day long. He's going to be untying it. He's going to be chewing on it. He's going to be putting it in his mouth. He's going to be wiping his nose with it. Let's be honest, he's 5. And I know that there are some kids that really do really well with that. And you can sit there and you can tell them, keep your hands down, keep your hands down, keep your hands down. My child isn't one of them. And nobody knows him better than I do. So by enforcing, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, by enforcing a mask only and always mask every day, all day on these students, you're inhibiting them from a social aspect of school. You're inhibiting them from learning the things that they need to learn the way they learn. And you're also making it so that there's a distraction that our teachers have to deal with. I understand that the governor has gone ahead and has made it a mandate for K through 12. I understand that. All I'm asking as a parent is that you make it optional. So that just like you guys sitting up there, you're choosing to have a mask on, some of you, and some of you aren't. Make it optional for my children so that if they want to wear a mask, they can. And if they don't have to. Let's teach them to wash their hands. Let's teach them to stay home when they're sick, and maybe, just kind of fly-by-the-night idea, maybe make that attendance policy a little bit looser so that if my kid's got a fever, I have a chance to keep him to the doctor, make sure that I get a COVID test, and have a chance to have it come back positive or negative without it being any adverse effects on their attendance policy. Give us an opportunity as parents to take care of our kids if they're sick and stay home. I'm all about that. But if my kid gets the flu, he gets COVID, he gets strep throat, I mean, there's your days off that he can have according to the attendance policy. So I think that there's some ways that we can address this if you let the public be a part of it, that we can maybe check all the boxes or most of the boxes and still not have people be upset. I don't know that I'm necessarily in a position to homeschool my children. I am a working adult. My husband has a job, and being able to homeschool takes that's a whole different aspect. Having my teachers, our teachers for Carbon School District, I think they did a great job with what they were handed in the springtime. I really do. I think that for as much as I pushed my 5th grader to get all of her stuff done, make sure she did it right, as much as I pushed her to do that, to have her come back and get a pass-fail, kind of bit her in the butt because she worked really, really hard. And to not have a letter grade, elementary, that's one thing, but what did that do to our seniors? What did that do to our juniors in high school to not get an actual letter grade? I don't know because I don't have any, but just a thought. We need to think this through a little bit more rather than just having, masks are mandated and we're gonna make everybody go to school with a mask and we're gonna make everybody stay 6 feet apart. I think it's adding a little bit of stress and a little bit of, a lot of stress. A bunch of things, not only on our community, but on our parents, and especially on our children. Their mental health has to count for something. And being hidden behind a mask diminishes their personality, diminishes their ability to pay attention in school, and opens up a lot of opportunity for teasing, for bullying, for mine is better than yours, all of that opportunity, and especially for my 5-year-old who needs some help. Help I can't give him. I'm not a trained speech pathologist. I can't. That's why I've enrolled him where he's enrolled. That's why I have tutors, because I'm trying to give him the best start. You put a mask on his face and a mask on his teachers, he's not going to get that. And that's not fair to him. So I just ask that we come up with a plan, a little bit better of a solution than putting masks on everybody's faces and making them stay 6 feet apart. Thank you.
Thank you very much for elucidating very, very well a lot of feelings, putting them out there very well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Okay, let's move then to the school reopening plan. Did you have something, Jeff?
Yeah, I want to address her concerns based on our conversation we're going to have about the school reopening plan. And because this is something that's been on our minds for months. And looking at options and alternatives and what we can do and what we can't do. The one thing we can't do, and we've seen this because there's been a Utah County Commissioner who's requested from the governor a compassionate exemption. So far, the governor is unwilling to give exemptions. Yes,
Is it really in our constitution that the governor can mandate that?
yes, they've already taken it to court.
The
So-
10th Bill of Rights.
Here's what we're trying to do to accommodate, okay? Your middle schooler, probably not a lot we can do with her. She's probably going to be in a mask, and her teacher's probably going to be in a mask. But the reason that's going to be critical is because middle schoolers are not going to stay 6 feet apart. And so that's what the state has said will happen. The 5-year-old, however, what if his teachers didn't have a mask on, but they had a face shield that was 100% transparent and he could see their faces? And then because of his special needs, we were able to get an exemption, which we're trying to do, because he is a student at Castle Valley Center, which is fully a special needs school.
But what about the kids that go to regular kindergarten over at Creekview? I mean, it's the same thing. They're learning to read, they're learning all those things.
Yep.
They need to see their teacher's face.
Right.
Those are all our frustrations.
And those are all things we're trying to get worked out with the state. Probably the 5 and 6-year-olds is what we're asking, and the special needs school. But the older kids should be able to be responsible enough to wear a mask.
And there are things that are within our ability to make decisions on, and there are things that are not our ability to make decisions on. And so that's where we're struggling. We're trying to define that. We don't have clarity yet. We expected clarity by mid-afternoon today, and the word is, because of all of these types of things, they're having trouble working out the wording of the governor's mandate of what it actually is for schools. So we don't know for sure yet what it's going to be. And so this document, and that's I wanted to preface this discussion that this document is intended to be a living document. It's not intended to be, we're done with it, we're not coming back. No, this is a living document that we're working with here. As situations change, as we have ability to make decisions within this, or expand the ability for us to make decisions within that. That's we want to emphasize that we're required by the state to approve this today. Well, before July 31st, if we don't have a meeting before July 31st. So we're required to have this approved, but we want you to know that this is a living document as the year works through. So your input can't be more valuable to us. I can't thank you enough for being here. And don't, well, I did my part now. Don't be afraid to express your opinion in every form that you possibly can, because it's valuable. It's valuable to us. It's not sentiment that has not been expressed or frustration that hasn't been expressed on it. So we thank you for that. But we only have so much power, and we'll exercise our power and own our decisions as best as we can, and then figure out the best way we can to work within what the governor tells us we can.
And and just, in case the public is wondering, this plan looked vastly different last Thursday when we met with our committee. The mask component was not there except for certain circumstances where students were exhibiting symptoms. However, now all of that, of course, has had to be adjusted. And who's to say that in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, the governor doesn't come out and put forward another adjustment. So that's why this has to be a little bit fluid. But
Right, the governor and those that have the governor's ear is important that hear that. Now that's part of us, yes, but you have a senator and representative that is responsible to you. Always a good idea to make sure that they understand what your feelings are. Because they have a direct line to the governor's office too.
on the foundation of this plan, it hits a lot of what Mrs. Larson, is that right, Mrs. Larson? Addressed, and we've got to have kids in school. The experience that we had last spring, we don't ever want to have again. And so we've just kind of started with this philosophy that all healthy students ought to be in school physically. And that's the foundation. The American Academy of Pediatrics also agrees with that. And many other organizations now have said having kids physically in school is critical, and we need to make that happen. Now, how do we make that happen? That's what this plan is about. With the requirements from the state, how do we do that in a way that doesn't put undue burden on teachers, that also, ultimately just makes it possible for us to have school. So as listed here, many different organizations have worked with us on this plan, and including the Southeast Utah Health Department. And so as we work through it, we won't read this thing word for word. The board has already gone through it word for word, but we will hit the highlights. There are two different kinds of learning that are represented in this plan. One is remote learning. Remote learning is when an individual student needs to participate in school, but at home. So the teacher is still teaching a regular class full of students, but one student or two students, they had symptoms or whatever, or maybe they are high risk, or their family is high risk, or maybe someone in their family was exposed. For whatever reason, they are going to participate from home via technology. Virtual learning in this plan means no kids are in school. So it would be like last spring when everybody was at home. So that's just a point of vocabulary that is used in this plan. In this plan, we outline the training that we're going to do. We're going to utilize video, website, and electronic, as well as mail, physical mail, and back to school nights. For staff, we're going to utilize face-to-face meetings and that are going to be coming up in August to do that training. And we will also be referring to that website and the video about this plan throughout that. We also have a school nurse who will provide training regarding symptom checking and those things that the individual schools need. Principals are going to be the contacts at the buildings, but they are also going to designate at least one other individual as an additional point of contact. Now, this is the big one, and we made it as simple as possible. And this is the language that, as I talked to the state superintendent, who's the only person I know who's actually seen the executive order, said that it is consistent with that order at this time. Due to the executive order from Governor Herbert, all individuals, students, and staff will be required to wear face coverings at school and on buses. But let me fast forward to to this section here, section 9, where it talks about high-risk individuals, we completely intend to make accommodations and provide other options for students and staff who need it. And we believe that the governor's executive order will allow for that accommodations. We have been made aware of certain conditions that a person might have that would prohibit them from wearing a mask. So we need to have another option, and we're committed to finding another option. So although the plan says, as the governor's order will say, that we will, everyone will wear face coverings, we do want to acknowledge that certainly students with IEPs, certainly students with health impairments, those are all going to be individual cases that we're going to do whatever we need to do for the what's best for the student or the staff member. So cleaning and hygiene, we're going to really ramp that up in our buildings. Janitorial staff will take care of all high-touch areas at least daily. Teachers will take sanitation breaks of some kind where students can wash their hands, or they can all sanitize their work area at a break time or something like that. Sanitizer is going to be available in every classroom and throughout the building. Teachers will encourage that hand washing, and supplies are going to be used in a way so that we're not sharing supplies. So you don't have one pair of scissors for a table of 5 kids. We're going to have 5 pairs of scissors, and they're going to be individually separated, try and contain that. With symptom monitoring, families are going to be the first line of defense. As mentioned in the public comment, attendance policy is going to need to be addressed, and we do mention that in here, that students who have to stay home are going to be able to access their class via technology, and if they do that, they're going to be marked present, and so attendance won't be an issue that they have to deal with. But we need family. Maybe families first is kind of the philosophy. The family is the first one to say, you're sick, you're not going to school. And we need that to happen. If they do come to school and they are exhibiting symptoms, we're going to ask them to go to the office where they will be evaluated and maybe sent home, depending on the situation. If they are sent home, upon re-entering, they're going to need to have a symptom check where the school will take their temperature. The school will complete a little questionnaire about symptoms, and they will just observe the student. If everything looks all right, they'll just send them right to class, and they'll join back in. If a student or staff member has been required to do quarantine by Southeast Utah Health Department, we'll have to have a release. So that only comes into play if someone in their family or they themselves have been quarantined by the health department. We will also, upon request, provide information to people who call the school about the number of students who were sent to the office and sent home sick any particular day. A lot of these are part of the requirements from the state. So remote learning, this is when students can't physically be in school, they're going to tune in via technology. And so teachers who have a student in their class requiring remote learning will have a camera, they'll have a camera stand, USB extension cable, and they'll be able to broadcast that class so the student can watch and participate. And they just need to be able to access it remotely. For contact tracing, we have indicated that we will work very closely with the health department. If there is a confirmed case, we're going to help the health department to notify those people who need to be notified. As far as movement and transition in the schools, the goal that we've been given is to minimize congestion. So we want our entryways and our exits to be clearly marked, and we'd like those to be different places so that when you're entering the school, it's not the same place people are exiting, so that there's not a lot of congestion. We'll be using floor lines and arrows and signs to help communicate that, so it's pretty easy for people to follow. If there are, as we mentioned before, if there are high-risk individuals or people with individual situations, we expect them to contact the school, and then that will trigger a process of looking at options, whether it's a student or a staff member. We want to brainstorm and work with that person and that family to come up with options that will work.
You notice there's a number 5 and a number 4 that said we don't think that we've thought of everything. So if there's more there, we can certainly add them.
Thank you. Now, what if there is an outbreak? Heaven forbid. We hope that there's not. But if there is an outbreak, we've put in this this part of our plan. Again, Southeast Utah Health Department has seen it and approves of it. But if the number of students participating in home quarantine due to illness reaches 30% of the student body in a school, or if unusual patterns of illness occur in a specific class, the school's job is to notify the superintendent. Superintendent will consult with the health department and may or may not determine to institute virtual learning. That could be happening as a classroom or at a school level or a whole district level. If that is necessary, that means that students are going to learn virtually at home like they did in the fourth quarter last school year. We are saying we will never do that for more than 2 weeks. It might be less than 2 weeks, but it won't be more than 2 weeks. After that time period is over, school will resume as normal. And again, the health department has seen this and everything. So all extracurricular activities during that time obviously would have to cease during that window of time. During virtual learning, we will make sure that 3rd graders through 12th graders who do not have adequate access to technology at home, they must have a Chromebook for remote learning for that 1 week or 2 week period. Students in grades K through 2 may have a Chromebook, or they might do learning packets, but that's determined by their teacher. Students will follow the regular bell schedule as much as possible. Secondary teachers will use a standard platform, and elementary teachers will use a standard platform for virtual learning. And that is, we're working on that, the details of the standard platform, and that communication will be coming out very soon. So again, we don't want to ever do this, but we might have to. If we do, this is how we're going to handle it. So transportation, bus drivers will observe the students. If they see somebody who has symptoms, or they have a student who comes to them and says, hey, you need to stop the bus, I need to vomit, that's obviously a symptom. So their job would be to notify the school immediately. Well, first they're going to make sure that they use some hand sanitizing wipes, but then they're going to notify the school. The school will then intercept the student once they get off the bus so that they don't mingle with all the other kids. They'll start the quarantine procedure. They'll be evaluated. If there's nothing there, or if they can understand what's going on and there's no threat, they'll let them go to class. If not, then they'll have to send them home. So for the bus driver's point of view, they're always going to contact the school if they notice symptoms. Students will wear face coverings while on the bus. So will the bus drivers. We will assign seats on the buses. That will also help with contact tracking if we ever need to do that. But we're going to try and, the transportation department's going to try and make sure that siblings are in the same seat to minimize, contact. Buses will be sanitized at the end of each route and extracurricular field trip. Hand sanitizer and face coverings will be required and available on the buses. Drivers and staff will wear face coverings, and so will chaperones and coaches. When it comes to cafeteria, students are going to use hand sanitizer upon entering the cafeteria. Tables are going to be sanitized after each use. Food will not be distributed in any buffet style or self-service. It'll all be cafeteria worker distributed food or grab and go. The cafeteria workers will wear face coverings and gloves, and we do have some student workers who like to work in the kitchen, and those will have to get parent permission before they'll be able to help in the cafeteria. Lunch schedules are going to be adjusted to make sure we can sanitize in between uses of tables. So for restrooms, those are going to be sanitized before school, mid-morning, midday, mid-afternoon, and after school. And students will be taught the importance of washing hands and taught the proper way of washing their hands in the restroom. So as far as recess and playground, we hope they have fun. And then when they come in, we want them to wash their hands and use hand sanitizer every time they get done with recess. Recess schedules, we're asking principals to limit the number of students. The number 100 per area is just a guide, but we think our principals can do better than that. We think they can get creative about how they use their spaces. So special education and related services, these will be any small group or one-on-one sessions will begin and end with hand sanitizing. And if they can't be in school, we're going to do everything we can to provide services virtually to students who have to be home for whatever reason. Now, large group gatherings, at this point, based on the governor's executive order, face coverings are going to be required to attend events. Those include indoor events and outdoor events. We're going to make sure the flow of people doesn't allow for a lot of congestion, and we're hoping that we can convince families to stay together. For volunteers and visitors, we'll just do a quick symptom check when they come in, and we need to log where they're going in the building, so that in case there is a problem, we know who was around the area. So then we have this section right here. This is the last section of unique courses. And this is the section I haven't been able to get much help from the state on. And so we do expect some adjustments to be made here. But for Castle Valley Center, the whole school is kind of an exception. So we're going to have to work directly with the health department, and they will help us and provide guidance as we consider the individual needs of the students at Castle Valley Center. For choir classes, we need to strive to maintain more than 6 feet of social distance while they're singing, unless they're wearing masks. Then you don't have to worry about that. But it's choir, so we're not sure if that's realistic to require masks during. But we should be getting some clarification on this one. Every effort will be made to make sure the sheet music is digital or disposable or sanitized between uses. Band, we still have a little bit of a question about band, and we're hoping to get some more clarification in the coming days. PE as well. We can't see students in PE wearing face masks. So how is that going to work? again, the governor's executive order is supposed to have information to guide us on that. And then sports, the same types of situations that we experience. So that's a quick run through.
Thank you. Related, Kristen has a question for Mrs. Larson to help us with here.
Mrs. Larson, I just wanted to tell you that if we could just bottle the caring you have for your own students for the whole world, it'd probably be really great. Because lots of kids don't have parents that really take the time to care as much as you have. And I know you're frustrated, but I also want you to know that it's really important that you step up like you did, like just bringing up the idea of grading is a really good one for us to think about. If we do have to go to, if students are sent home from school again this year, or I think that you've made a really good point about that. And I wondered if you'd just take 1 minute. In terms of the grading, if she had received an actual, did she just get a pass fail? Would you kind of clarify that?
Yeah.
And
she
so
did.
it's frustrating because she put a lot of work into it.
Well, and not only was it frustrating for her, but it was frustrating for me too. It took hours and time out of my day, and granted, it's with my daughter and I love my children, but it was me learning Common Core math. I didn't grow up doing Common Core math. So it was me trying to help her through that schoolwork. So it was my time and effort as well as hers. And her frustration was me trying to teach her something differently than the way her teacher has taught her for the entire year.
Right.
So then by the time we got done with our frustration, we're like, yes, we got it turned in at the end of the year for her to get a pass. She's like, well, but Mom, I tried really, really hard. I know you did, sweetheart, and so did I. And this just means you get to go to 6th grade. She says, well, what if I hadn't have done it as good? And I said, well, you participated with your Google Meets. You were on your, your stuff. You were anything that was digitalized, you did. And I said, and we handed in all your stuff. I don't know what got graded off of that. I don't know, but you were checking the, essential boxes, so you got a pass. And I don't mean to belittle or discount the children that had parents that weren't as involved as I was, or the parents that were more involved than I was, because believe me, there were those out there as well. But to have those parents and have, especially those students, try that hard in a system that was completely and totally new to them, to just, I just passed. I didn't get an A+, I didn't get a B, I didn't get an F, I just passed. It was kind of a big letdown for her. I mean, for her age group, she's, 10, 11 years old. She didn't go to, online school for USU. That's not what she signed up for. She wanted a teacher, she wanted a grade. And so to have that kind of took the wind out of her sails a little bit. She was really disappointed. And I don't know how the high school did it. I don't know. But I sure hope those seniors got a grade so that they can apply to college.
I just want to thank you again, and this is a discussion that I promise you will continue as a board. I think it's a really important point, and I thank you for bringing that to us.
Anytime.
And we are talking about the attendance policy today. It's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the school reopening plan?
So you need a further discussion.
Yeah, first of all, is there any other
I
discussion?
was
or concern?
wondering, the superintendent made several comments about that it would have to be adjusted according to changes in the state expectations, as well as probably their own teacher input. So could our resolution include that it would be,
It's in the body of the document.
okay, that it will be updated or
Right, it's a
changed, or
living document.
dependent on, okay. So everyone understands. I think that's important here.
Okay, then I would move to approve the school reopening plan as presented. Special notation that we will review this periodically to update it as needed.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? With none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, whoa. Long enough that my computer went away.
Superintendent, are you planning to, send like a draft just to all your teachers, just so they kind of know where you're headed?
Well,
I think
yeah.
that would be really comforting if I were.
A major, now that it's been approved,
Right,
a major effort's going to be made to communicate now. So
thank you. I think, I know I would. do that.
Get it out.
Is Bruce back?
Yeah.
Bruce, thank you for your help there. Recognize that, thank you. Okay, let's move on then to policy 531, student activity, student travel out of state travel.
So based on the feedback that we received from the board last time, we're taking a stab at it. This is, you asked for it to come back as a first reading because it really was pretty new. So the way we've adjusted it, again, the background on this is changes at the state level regarding fees and what constitutes a fee and what we're required to do to waive fees for students who qualify. And so we're trying to find a way to address this policy so that we can still support students, but also, make sure that we don't have an undue burden financially as a district. So when it comes to national competitions and events, students invited to participate in national competitions or events, if they choose to attend, will make their own arrangements and accept the risks and costs of attending a competition or event. And then when it comes down to district funding, 5.2, students in the 6th through 12th grades who win first or second place at a statewide competition are invited to attend a national competition or event and verify that they attended the event will receive a $400 prize from the district, to help them with the costs of attending.
I have a crazy thought.
Really?
The whole day's been crazy,
Okay,
so I'm trying to
that's a
just follow
surprise.
it up. I wonder about, I don't know if we want to get involved in this, but I just wonder about, do these kids that attend on their own, I know, can we require or at least recommend that a chaperone? I mean, what are you gonna do about, are chaperones still involved in this in our district? Are we gonna pay, if we send a chaperone, are we going to pay for that chaperone? Are they not gonna have any chaperone? I'm not clear on that.
Well, that's what we're saying in this one, 5.1, is that if they choose to attend, they're gonna need to make their own arrangements and they're gonna need to accept the risks. We're not sending them necessarily if they choose to attend. So in this draft,
But
But point 7, go down to dot 7.
Supervision.
Yeah.
We will provide the supervision.
for any student not supervised by parents.
oh
So-
yeah,
So are we gonna do that?
we were anticipating that this line, I didn't go that far, I guess, but that this line would basically eliminate the responsibility of the district to send a chaperone.
But if we fund it, doesn't that, if we're given
If you do fund it,
$400,
don't you accept some of that responsibility?
I don't know, what we're wondering is if it is a prize, it's not travel. You're not paying for travel, you're not paying for a hotel, you're not paying, if you were doing that, then yes. So
So,
we don't have to change anything. We're just saying, if we ended up with students who were on fee waiver, we'd be paying for everything. So we'd be paying for them, their chaperone, their hotel, their flight, their food, everything. And if we're okay with that, then that's great. We're just trying to think ahead a little bit and think how can policy address this issue so we're not.
I have a problem with this, and it's not a logical one, but it's still the way I feel. I understand the problem with fee waivers. But the problem for me is that sometimes the greatest learning experience of a kid's life is when they go on one of these trips. And they don't get any opportunity except here. And so how can we, I want it all.
We're not changing, Kristen, we are not changing the reality of anything for the student with this.
Because it's the
Before we
same number.
provided them $400, now. we're
But you
gonna
also
provide
provided them with a chaperone.
Well, as this
We
is
still have
written,
it.
we still do.
We still
We still do according to this.
According to this, we still do.
Not their parents. We're not paying for their parent to go. It's a school chaperone. So if the history fair person goes back to Washington DC and Chris Winfrey goes, we pay for Chris Winfrey as the chaperone.
Okay, we're going to do that.
Yeah,
That's what it
that
still
hasn't
says.
changed. See, if
Okay,
you look
but-
right here on this one, under supervision, right here.
Yeah, but-
There's no red or green, hasn't been changed at all.
So they make all their own arrangements.
Yeah, that's what does change. That's true, there is a change.
And I'm
there.
sure they can get some assistance from the advisor. But
Same
it
thing
would
with
be the-
fundraising. So fundraising could still be a function of the advisor who helps to arrange something. But we don't want to feel like the district is responsible to come up with that.
Perhaps, because it was brought up once, the board could consider what level, number of students would an advisor be sent? Does it make sense for one student to send two advisors?
Well, it says no adult supervision unless there's 4 students
Or does it say four?
under supervision.
No adult supervision would be provided by the district until the number of students attending the event exceeds 4.
But that was in the previous policy.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
not
But we're
changing.
just saying
That's not
that.
new.
That's everything as it is right now. Now, I do have one potential legal problem with wording here. Or, no, it actually changes a whole lot. When we say under funding at the end, and verify that they attended the event will receive a $400 prize for the district. And that part, and verify that they attended the event means that, and can be construed that we are paying for their travel. Because without it, we're not paying for
Yeah.
anything.
Is that in the existing language?
No, that's
No,
not.
That's in the
That's
new.
new language. So the decision is we pay them the $400 or we do not,
Whether they go or not.
whether they go or not. Because if we pay them when they go, we de facto are paying for travel expenses because that's the only reason that could definitely be construed by the courts is that's why we're.
And we do just want to quickly point out, though, that there are a lot of these
Yes.
Yep.
that qualify. So if we're okay with the $400 for every kid who qualifies and doesn't go, then
Yeah, I think we need to look at what money that
We wanted to see
is
how much
before
we
we-
actually spend.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, how much are we actually spending?
Did you put the?
That's
We talked about this last time, but keep in mind that we know the number of kids that go, but we don't know the number of kids that qualify but don't go.
So that
So
really,
we knew we spent about $28,000 on chaperones and sending students who chose to go to the state event. But I have no idea how many competitions took place throughout the year where kids won a state event but didn't do anything beyond that.
I mean, we
There's lots
can
of
keep it like this, understanding that it's a possibility.
yeah, that there's a potential that
Potential
somebody
liability
could.
there. Yeah.
there's a potential that somebody could,
Say that this, you're paying for travel.
we are paying for travel,
No, not if we just give
You're
them a
getting a
prize.
prize.
but essentially, we're paying for travel.
That's what I think the way the courts would see it.
If they ask
We
for
are.
it after the event, after they verified, so it's, they've gone and they come back and verify that they have been. So it could cover their expenses, but they've already paid those, so it's a prize.
But that's, you know, that in theory is really good, except that kids who really don't have the money, really don't have the money. They're not gonna go and then come back and get the money.
Right.
They don't have the money
And
to go.
well,
and
we
they
don't give them that money now.
But it pays for some of their travel, which is what they can't afford.
Well, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, but we're doing it after the fact.
Yeah.
We're doing it after.
We don't give it to them until after the fact now?
No,
No,
that's
we
what we're
give it to
saying
them
now.
It's
Now, we
paid
don't
for.
give it to them, period. We pay for a hotel and flights and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
We reduce their costs. Covers their costs, tries to collect the money from the students, and we just reduce what we collect by that amount. So and if you remember, we had talked about potentially lessening this, lowering the amount and broadening who receives it. You know, we've thrown out $100 for all students that win, or a higher amount for students that choose to attend.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sticky.
It's really hard.
That's what's really hard about this
It's really hard.
policy, so,
It is hard.
and we could just leave it the way that it's always been and see what happens, you know. There's a chance that, you know, we don't end up with very many kids that are on fee waiver that would qualify to go, and maybe it's not really that big of a deal.
Well, I think we have the responsibility to make sure that we are looking out for the interests of the school district to be able to provide education for everyone. And this could
This could hurt us.
Yeah,
We
this could
don't.
really
This is too unknown.
hurt us in that process. Maybe that's something on that wording that we actually need to get the recommendation of our legal counsel.
I can get an opinion, yeah.
And not just get her opinion, say, how should we say this?
Yeah, right, okay, great.
Okay, there's still the option though of leaving it the way it's written. And then in a few months, if it gets a problem, if we see it's gonna vary us, we make the change then.
Yeah, I mean, we've got until, October or November before we're going to see any of this.
Yeah.
So we
That's
can get
another-
all of those.
That's a good point. She's saying, and this year, although this year isn't forever, how many opportunities are really going to, you know, how many places are kids gonna actually get to go this year?
So we make,
This would
That's
give
a
us
great
some
point.
time to
Spring.
really think about it
Yeah.
and come up with it.
in reality, we have till spring. So we can approve the policy with the caveat that you verify the legality of this with council or get better wording and we can
Bring
do
it
it.
back for second reading.
Yeah, but we've got this.
So are you saying leave it as it's written right now?
Well, get the attorney's opinion on how it's worded right now.
Yeah.
Right, so we're still doing a gift. We're
I-
not doing going back to paying.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. As is rewritten.
No, I
Okay.
think you also have to, really look at how many kids depend on, you know, sometimes going to a national competition and winning is one of the biggest things they have to put on the college application, and it creates other money for them and other opportunities. So I'd really like us to think about it, you know, I agree, you know, speak to the attorney and all that, but let's just think about it a little bit more.
Okay, so do we want to move forward as a first reading here and approve it as a first reading?
If you approve it at first reading, you still have to revert
Yeah.
back to your old policy
Until the second.
until after it's fully adopted, right?
Right, but we have that time. We can look at
Right.
it again as a second reading next month.
So you're saying that we would pay for full funding?
No,
Well,
Yeah, you
if
are.
something happens and they're on fee waivers, then you pay for
Yes.
them for full.
But there aren't many competitions that,
Until
until
August.
spring, really.
But who's gonna get state first or second place and get invited to national competition between now and, say, October.
It just doesn't happen,
We're not
even in
even having
debate
state
or any of those things, it just doesn't happen till the end of the year.
Well, we've got.
Well,
is
we
it
could
fish and
wait
fair or
totally
something
then.
that happens in-
Why do we have to do anything?
in,
District
animal
first.
science, the
February,
FFA.
that's all in the
Yeah.
spring.
Winter, I think.
Yeah, we always have to approve it in April and in March.
There's something that we get hit with
I think there is something in the fall, but it would be after October.
October, yeah. Okay, so, but right now, we can approve this as a first reading and approve it as a second reading, put it in policy next month. And so it's ready before school starts. And I don't want to go straight to a second reading here because I want to get that clarification before we move forward. So. Okay, then, is there a motion to accept policy 531, student activities, as a first reading?
Is that what Kristen wants?
I move that we approve policy number
531.
531 as a first reading, with the expectation that we will look for final approval dependent on the opinion of our attorney.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Yeah, look at, she dove right in.
Yes. It's a very first
Got wet.
With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That, by the way, if anybody's still on, and you can see the last time we adopted this was July last year. So if this isn't a source of continued moving target, that,
If the state would quit changing the
I
policy.
call it.
here's an example of the state saying, this is what you've got to do, it's your problem, now deal with it. Okay. Next, policy 509, admissions and attendance, absence and excuses. By the
Okay.
way, green are additions, red are deletions.
So, again, this is Robert's policy, and he left me, hanging on this one, so. But this is the model policy from the state. And most of our old policy really is basically the same. But a lot of these administrative rules have changed over the years, and so those have been updated. And so, yeah, it's pretty much the model policy.
Can you direct me to where we might see specifics on just the illness for COVID or anything like that? Is there anything in here that you would say, I'm just saying for her?
Well, it says an absent resulting from illness.
Because I just don't.
It doesn't say COVID
Right.
or
but I-
anything else, but it says an absent resulting from illness is an excused absence.
Okay, I know just from past experience that, I mean, I think there's how many excused absences for illness are they allowed every year? There's a number, because I got a letter about it last year.
Okay, I think that's been taken out, I think that's,
Is that at the top?
I don't know, so I'm gonna look at.
Fewer than 155 days. So that's the, that's the line. In the previous policy, there's 180 days in the school year, and if they're on track to be there less than 155 days, there was a problem with granting credit for the year.
Okay, so it's essentially there's 30 days, right?
Or 25 days.
25.
Yeah. That's through the whole year.
That's through the whole year, so you can try to amortize that throughout the year and see where you're on track.
Okay,
But is that, there's not, that's not in this new model policy, is it?
I'm not seeing that.
Can I speak?
You can,
Here's
here's an elementary
509.9.
principal, last year elementary principal. Go
I
ahead.
know that we have made an effort to keep parents informed. I don't know, I don't have every single letter that went out, but I know that there's letters that go out to say, FYI, here's your current attendance. And they can be excused or unexcused, because I think sometimes attendance issues creep up on parents and they don't realize how many they're adding up, and it's not meant to be punitive. Now, unexcused absences, we will have to have a little more of a conversation with them, to let them know we do have an attendance policy, we need to make sure you're aware of it, but I'm wondering if it's just the language of the letters, maybe are coming across a little aggressive or something, I don't know, maybe we just need to look at the, hey, FYI, is there an issue we need to be aware of? Let us know.
We probably need to audit the letters that are being sent from the
Yeah.
schools.
Well, it says notice of
All right,
transit.
yeah, we'll work on that.
509.8.
At least we're elementary. I don't know, we got to
So it's the legal part of that, we have the code here. It's 607-4 is where the state code that addresses the compulsory education part. It's under 509.2. On our new policy, it references under 509.
Isn't this at 607.4?
Yeah, 4. So that's where the legal part is at. So we're just referencing the legal part instead of putting it in our policy. Do we know
So
what the
when this
legal part
changes
says?
by the legislature, our policy doesn't have to. That's why that's.
Unless they move it to 607-14.
What's that? I'm sorry.
Unless they move it to 607-14.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then we have to change our policy.
Right.
That's why I always worry about actually putting the specific line, paragraph and line in our policies, because every year those will change.
So what I'm seeing is for excused absences, there's not a limit. For unexcused absences, or what they call truant in the law, it's 5. But beyond that, if a parent excuses them, especially if the student makes up the work, then I don't see that there's being a limit.
And that's 5 times is just triggering the notice.
Yeah, right.
And then the policy provides, schools with the ability to take other action to help resolve the problems of unexcused absences.
Let me draw the distinction between what we said in our return to school plan up there about providing the at-home learning, remote learning opportunities, and what an excused absence is. They don't, if they're ill and have an excused absence from the attendance policy, they don't have to be counted as being present by participating in remote learning. They're still excused. So they don't have to participate in remote learning in order to be excused if they're out for an illness.
Right.
But if they are participating, then they're marked in school.
I guess maybe a little clarification on what type of excused absence or illness would qualify them to be able to do the remote learning. You know, I mean,
Anytime you're not in school.
just anytime, it doesn't have to be doctor's note for XYZ in order to be able to do that, just anytime. How is the parent supposed to notify the teacher that, my daughter's not gonna be in school today, she needs to participate in this? How is that all, is there any sort of guideline as to how that's supposed to take place? Because
It's the
if
only
she
way,
doesn't show up at 8 a.m.,
it's the only way the teacher's going to know is if the parent does contact the school somehow and lets them know, email something that would say, hey, my kid's gonna stay home today. Can you set her up with the remote learning?
Yeah, because of because of all the hacking and bad things that have happened, not with meetings, people hacking in and presenting inappropriate things and stuff like that. The security policy is just not open, and whoever wants to get in, get in. They've got to be let in. So they've got to let the teacher know so the teacher can let them in. For the learning, and that's just so we protect our kids from very bad things showing up on the screen.
And there's special conditions for students with IEPs besides. So, if you have a student in your home that is on IEP, there are some additional guidelines.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. Item number 4.
Uh, 509.4?
50, it's right after the beginning, just as it begins, 50, whatever this part,
Oh, up here.
5091, and then item 4.
So, okay, so item 4 right here.
1, 2, 3, 4. There you are. Oh, there you are. And this is going to be a problem with Robert having started this and then handing it. I don't see a paragraph 7B or subsection 7B.
Without a valid excuse, and subject to subsection 7B.
Where is it? Just the name.
Well, how about that?
So there's one.
Where?
No, there's one item.
That's the same with 509.8 too. There's only an A, nobody, anyway.
You're gonna have to call him out of retirement.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to bring him in.
So what is it?
Doc is retirement till it gets fixed.
Tell him
We
that
charge you double.
Yeah, hold that retirement check, Darren, will you?
Sorry, it comes from the state.
Uh,
It's out of our hands.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah,
I'm sure he would be happy to come in, though. I will get him to come in and we'll take a look at this in more detail.
okay.
I should have sat down with him more on it, but he left.
I think he got on his motorcycle.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Hey, that, when you retire, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You leave.
By the time it finally comes, you're just walking out the door. It's like I'd say, when I sell my home, it's as is, furniture, clothes,
Toothbrush.
food,
Yeah, whatever.
You get it. Okay, so we want to just table this till next time?
I think this needs to have a little.
I'll give it some TLC and I'll be in much better shape.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, policy 301.09, non-traditional employment.
So this is one of the policies that's coming out of negotiations. So this has been vetted through that committee. So the main change here is changing language from job sharing, which was a very specific process, to part-time employment. So the teachers still have an option to work part-time. But we don't have to, we're not held to some of the very specific steps that had to be in place that we felt like put an undue burden on the teacher, as well as the school. So I'm sure you've had a chance to look at it, and
We talked about
we
this.
kind of talked about it before, so.
Any questions, Melissa?
No, I'm just got through it.
All righty.
Um,
Any
yeah.
discussion?
Just, so I'm a little concerned about objectivity versus subjectivity on these situations. One building administrator versus another one, their points of view, and I mean, it's pretty broad to say a current certified educator in good standing may request. That means everybody who's never had needs improvement in their file is going to get to be a half-time teacher. And
Well, I think what we wanted was to make sure it was not somebody who was on a plan of assistance or somebody
Right.
who, had that type of problem. So that's the reason for the language good standing. You need anything else to add there?
Is it felt that if they're on an improvement plan, that they need to be employed full-time in order to complete the plan, as opposed to them going part-time?
Yeah, that's a good point. There might be a scenario where somebody who's on a plan of assistance might be better off in a part-time situation, so I can see that point too.
I didn't have that thought, but that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Jeff every once in a while comes up with
I
those
know.
good points.
Come on.
If we were to,
We
Please
write down the
don't.
date so that we can keep.
It's right there.
Someone write that. Where's Melanie when you need her to write that down?
if we were to strike that, it would
Well,
read,
except the teacher might not propose it if they didn't feel like they were in good standing.
But the district,
It's on the
and
district.
they're aware of teachers.
This district could, but this is saying the administrator may request. I mean, sorry, the educator may
teacher, yeah.
request, yeah.
so if we did that, it would just say a current certified educator may request to become part-time. I don't see any problem with that.
I don't think.
Okay.
Anyone should be able to come and say, I
right.
think I'd be better off going part-time.
Okay, that's not my question. My question is more along the lines of, they're going to request this of their supervisor, which is a principal. This principal, a lot more accommodating than this principal.
Can we object to private?
Well, I think what we said, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but we said that has to be submitted to their supervisor by February 1st. The supervisor's not making the decision.
Okay,
What, number two?
right.
So the way we see it is the supervisor would then forward that request on to us at the district level. And then we would, because we know everything that we have done and precedent that we set and we want to be consistent, we felt like it would be a bad idea if every principal made that decision on their own.
Okay.
So that's why,
So that's what district means, is district administration.
Do we
That's-
need to write that?
That's where I'm wondering.
Does it
what
need to
does
be
that
changed to
mean?
superintendent?
And is that appropriate, or is it the, I don't know, secondary supervisor? Element
and
supervisor?
I think
Does it
that's
come
why
all the way
we
to
put the
superintendent?
districts, because I guess we wanted that to be a team.
Okay, so why don't you add district administrations?
The DAT.
Yes.
Yeah, district administration.
District administration team
Team, yeah.
discretion.
Wait. Sorry, can you tell me why you want it to be the DAT again?
So we didn't want it to be a principal, school principals, noting that there's vast differences between our 10 different principals and the subjectivity that may be out there to create it here, but not to create it here. So we wanted to create as much objectivity into the decision as possible. Now, all we're doing is making more specific what the intent of the policy was. We're being told, and number two, that it is at the district's discretion is how it was. But we didn't, upon reading that, necessarily understand that meant the board office, the district administration.
So we're just
We're just
changing
making
district to
that more
district
specific.
administration.
Okay.
Trying to create some semblance of,
Consistent.
yeah, consistency, yes.
So are we okay with getting rid of that line too? I just want to make sure before we.
In good standing?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
good with that. But are you, to their direct supervisor, okay. Yes.
They turn it in there and then it goes to the district.
So the only real change we've made so far is that the good standing part is thrown out.
And the district.
That's just
No, we
clarified. It
just
was already said
clarified
district.
District administration.
At what point will number 3 come into permanent definition? So you make a teacher makes a request, goes to the principal moves it on the line, up the line. The administrative team says, yes, we're gonna grant this, and it ends in 1 year, or do at that time you say this can go on for however many long you want it, or we'll see how it does for the first year, and then we'll decide if we're gonna extend it?
We just didn't want to give a blanket forever now.
Right.
So does it,
Be-
but this means that you have to review it every year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reading here, is that you have to review it every.
And I just wanna make
The
sure we
way I,
want to.
the way I read it is, if we want to review it, we could, but if it's at the discretion of the district
Oh,
and everything's
okay.
working fine, we don't have to mess with anything. We can just leave it alone year after year.
I can
So that's the way we wanted to see it. I don't know if it really says.
No, it doesn't say you have to review it every year, it just says district discretion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something odd about that wording. It
About
just
Number
feels,
3's wording.
well, continuation of the part-time position beyond one
First of all, it
school
doesn't
year
have a
is at the
space.
district's
Yeah, it
discretion.
needs a space.
I think what you're honestly
But-
saying is that will be reviewed annually and may or may not be continued at the district's discretion. That just sort of seems like.
If it is
Well, it doesn't
financially
say
feasible,
it
because how do
will
you
be
know if you
reviewed
don't
annually.
even check into it?
It just.
If it's financially
implies that
It has a little, I don't know, it makes me feel funny, like,
But could it be the teacher's request to go back to
yeah,
full-time
there's,
or to
yeah,
stay
I think it
part-time
needs to be
too?
a little more clear.
But if you're going to check to see if it's financially feasible, you have to
How
look at it
about
every
it
year.
will be reviewed yearly?
At the district's discretion.
And decisions about continuation or termination will be made at the district's discretion.
Well, yeah, it says that. It's just.
Okay, let me,
No, it doesn't
let
really.
me throw this out in light of putting that review on a yearly basis. What happens if a third of the way through that year, it is just not working? I don't think we want to put anything in the policy that says you gotta lump this out for the whole year, as opposed to making a change mid-year. Or do we?
Well, it's
Because
just
of
saying,
contracts.
it's saying it, if it continues beyond 1 year.
Yeah, but he's saying, what happens if you do this and then come
Well, if we
But it
add.
doesn't say,
January?
it doesn't say that you can't stop it before we.
But what do you do with the other half-time teacher who's working?
Well, then that's the whole problem that goes there, but leaving it this way, we can do that. If we add, it will be reviewed yearly, it implies that they've got this job for a year period.
Well, and if
Right,
you're
what do you
saying,
mean by
but
didn't work out though? If it didn't work out because there were more
What's the
students and we
teach-
need
the
to make it
teacher-
a full-time job?
That could be it, teacher hates it, I'm not gonna do this, or the students are just floundering and not happening because they've got 2 part-time teachers here, and this just isn't working for the education of our students.
So then the district could,
The way it's wording right now, they could.
right,
If we add definitions about yearly to it, then we're stuck. So the way it is right
Right.
now, they
but I
can do
think what
that.
Kristen is saying is that the teacher needs to know at the year or before the next year, is my part-time job still happening or not happening? Or am I going full-time again? And that needs to be communicated. Is that what you're,
I think that,
is
Yes.
uneasy
Yeah.
about it? So
yeah,
we're talking about 2 different things.
Okay, yeah.
well, and you also have to, if it says it must be financially feasible, how will you know that if you don't review it yearly?
Right.
So do we want to add a notification time to the educator?
I think that's good, because then the educator could make choices about, you know,
You know, there's
other
not a
positions.
full-time job opening or,
Right.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
Making
we won't have a
choices.
part-time job next year if you want to go full-time.
Or maybe like to move to another state.
Well, and if you have
That's
one
really-
person quit and you can't
That's
find
good.
another half-time, then what?
I think,
I
I
guess
just
that
think we
gives
need
person
to make
the
sure that we
opportunity.
So
still
when is
have
the teacher, what is the date on the transfer pool?
Right, so
Is it February
It's-
15th?
It says February 1st on
February
this.
1st is when they're supposed to
Right.
notify
But for
us.
the transfer
that they want.
pool, when is that open? So what I'm wondering is if that's, if you're looking at a
isn't
deadline
that the first
date
Monday of,
for them to decide if they want to try to continue on the part-time, or if there's a transfer
Well, this
or
is
something
way too
available within the district that they might want to try for, you know, if you want to put a date to it.
Something's wrong
Sounds
with it.
good. Do we know when that date is?
I'm looking, I can't find it.
Mike, if you
You
know.
don't
the
have that
transfer
thing
pool-
memorized?
I want to say March.
I want,
That sounds-
March, not the first Monday following March 1st.
Something like
I
that.
think
I
it
want to
is.
say March, that's.
We can just put in line with the
It
transfer.
opens on
pool.
February 10th.
Oh, February 10th, my birthday, yes. I should have remembered.
No wonder you forget.
Yeah.
You've got other things on your mind.
And then they have to notify us if they want to do it by the last workday of February.
Last workday in February. So if you want to put a deadline for the renewal or the continuation
so-
request,
So we need to notify them whether or not, or notify them if the part-time will not be continued by February 10th. So they can then have time to participate in that transfer pool.
Is that the due date or the opening date?
The opening, they've got to be able to participate in that transfer.
No, on the transfer pool, February 10th, the end date.
And
that's the
February
opening.
10th.
That's the opening.
February 10th is the opening.
Sorry, I
And
can't hear you.
the last day, I know, the last day, school day in February is the end.
It's the end.
Your mask's supposed to cover your mouth, not your ears, guys.
it's so weird.
Okay, you're now.
The transfer pool opens after February 10th.
Okay.
So why don't we just put a line in there that states that the part-time, if the part-time positions will be eliminated, they'll be notified by the opening date of the transfer pool.
We're talking about for the following year.
For the following year. So this protects the teachers so that they've got an opportunity to fully participate.
Yeah, they can apply for another job.
Yeah, it'd be a horrible thing to find out in August.
By when did
that,
you
by the way,
say?
You don't have a job.
By the February, the opening
Or
of
your
the
first
transfer pool,
full-time.
February 10th.
Was it,
It's, I think it's like.
was it February 10th? Or
Yeah,
March?
that's when the window
It's
opens
Josep's
for
It's
birthday.
applying.
after February 10th.
After February.
Yes.
That's when it opens, so they would, if you notify them by February 10th,
Then they would be.
then they.
Then they'd be able to
participate
put in
in
for
the
transfer.
transfer.
We'll have to say bye.
Okay. Good job, Kristen.
Change your numbers on the others.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get a 7B.
What's that?
Let's get a 7B here. Okay, anything else? Is this first reading?
Yes,
Oh,
isn't it?
this is approval.
Because it came from the negotiation team, I guess we were kind of
Our
thinking
first
it might
reading
be.
was by the board members at the negotiation team. I think is how we.
That's how we've done it in
Done
the
it
past, that's
before.
right, thank you.
Not quite a majority of the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's,
I don't know, we've always just
But
gone over it. I don't know.
legally, we do have the discretion to move it to
Yeah.
a second
A
reading.
second.
If you would like to.
There was, I'm sorry, that was not veiled very well.
That was what?
It wasn't veiled very well, your desire.
so I have another question though on the policy as it's written. Go down to number 7. So if in paragraphs 1 and 2, we are dealing with the district administrative team, right? Then 7 no longer applies.
No, it applies because it
Because
can,
that- it
it
deals-
can be denied by their direct supervisor initially.
Not if it's the district administrative team, it's the 3 of them.
But where, the first one where it
The first-
says they have to put the written request to their direct supervisor.
Right. But he just moves it on up the, or she just moves it on up the chain.
But if they don't move it up the chain, is that what you're protecting yourself against, is if the principal doesn't move it up the chain?
Yes.
And what I also believe that, what if the DAT as a team, we decide that we're not going to do it? I still would want that person to appeal to me and come and
Well, but-
talk to us about it.
But isn't that covered in the appeal process that you already have?
Well, that's more of a grievance and we don't want to it's different.
Okay.
It's
You want to
different.
avoid an agreement.
Right.
Oh, I can see that. Okay, if that's okay, as long as there's, okay.
Now, superintendent, please put
A space between there.
It's driving Lee and I crazy.
2 and 3.
Between 2 and 3.
And one less space between.
Well, you'll see something, and it's just kind of a funky way that this program works, but once I bring it up here, there is a space.
Oh,
Okay. thank
All
you.
right.
That's a real trick.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay. Then, is there a motion on this policy? I'll word it that way. So it can be the discretion to move it.
I'll
a
move
second.
to approve policy 301.9.1 as a second reading.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? With none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Noted. Motion carries. Nay is a double negative.
Two opposed.
Oops.
Okay, let's move then to, where are we? Policy 301.1, Lee.
So on this policy, as you can see, we feel like we have a whole different process when it comes to leave of absence. When somebody has an illness or disability, that's FMLA, that's a whole different process that we believe doesn't fit here. And then we have all leave of absence requests are subject to board approval. That's a request from you all as we dealt with this in the past. So the other changes have to do with sabbatical leave. And so we put in language here about the school board being the one that grants the sabbatical leave to an educator. And then the rest of the sabbatical leave part stays the same until you get down to the educator will agree in writing to return to employment with the CSD for 4 full years following sabbatical leave. So if they're granted a sabbatical leave, we would expect them to stay with us for 4 years. If they don't, then they would owe us some compensation.
What if an educator is terminated after 2 years? Other 4? For cause?
Yeah, I think that's obviously out of their, they're not choosing to leave. I thought we had something in here.
I don't remember
I don't
anything.
think there is. Okay. So I guess I don't know. The intent, I believe the intent is that we wouldn't seek anything. I mean, what we want is for them to not voluntarily leave until the 4 years have passed. So, because there has to be some benefit to the district if we're going to invest that.
It does say that if they do not return, that we would, they need to pay it, or we would take necessary, what does it say? May bring suit
Suit.
against the educator to collect any.
And we could put language in here that says they need to agree in writing to return. And then in the event that the educator does not voluntarily return, or, we could probably put, choose to return or something like that, that would clarify that.
Well, I think that says that though.
Well,
But if you're talking about a terminated employee, then that's a different situation than not returning. The purpose of a sabbatical is that you're doing something that will, benefit the district by you taking a year off. And so essentially you need to come back to the district and work. And you're saying, we will grant you a sabbatical for a year with you promising to come back for 4 years at least. And if you do that, we will pay for your benefits while you're gone and a part of your salary. That is the benefit of being an educator and also coming back and benefiting us by whatever you're doing in your sabbatical leave. And if they do not return, then there's language here of how you can go about getting the money back if you want to pursue that. It is not a very used policy, we've learned, and so but we felt like it was good to keep because we feel like it should be a privilege of good educators be able to do that if they want to better the district in some way and come back and guarantee 4 more years with the district, so.
Darren, the obvious question that you've got to give us the answer to before we can make an educated decision on this is, so what's going to be on an average situation of a teacher who has at least 6 years experience in the district of those benefits and that 50% salary?
How much is that?
Yeah, so their salary will be around, getting close to 50,000 at that point, so 25,000. Benefits on family health insurance are also close to 25,000. It's 30%.
But that's at the full salary, so
Yeah,
they're gonna be full benefits as if basically the full salary.
yeah, benefits they're full benefits here.
Yeah.
But outside of insurance, the other benefits will be about 30% of what they earn. So you take the 25,000 and add a third to that.
So you've got 25 plus 25 plus a third of 25.
Yeah.
A third of 25 or 30 of 50? Because don't we pay the full retirement? while they're on sabbatical?
Well,
Mhm.
retirement is based on their earnings.
Okay, but is the association aware that while they're on sabbatical, they're not receiving 100% credit?
No, they are receiving.
They do receive 100%.
What we pay for retirement is based on what they earn. And
Okay.
so.
So because they're only earning 25%, they're only, 50%.
They still get a year's
50%
credit, but
is
we only
one.
pay
Yeah.
a percentage of what they. That's just how the retirement system works.
Okay.
So we're basically $63,000 is going to be realistically what the cost is to the school district for this. So my concern is on number 2, we could be paying 4 of those at any given time.
Or,
Well, if you had 2 in 1 year and 2 the next year,
Yeah.
But isn't it just for a year?
we're 1 year, yeah.
Oh, so it's just
Just for 1 year.
it's 1 year, so we could be paying 2 of
In
those.
1 year.
So we're $125,000 could be our cost that we have. Then we have to pay for the replacement teacher, which is nearly $100,000. So we're too,
Well, so, but that wouldn't be additional cost. If the teacher stayed and worked, we'd have that salary. You know, if they leave, we're still paying that salary. So you're right in your first estimation, that there is a cost, and I think at that point, that's where the district would need to talk about it and say, what do we
I
need?
mean,
And,
we're basically
and this-
taking 1 teacher away,
yeah,
more than 1.5 teachers away.
right,
do we value what they're doing enough to pay for this? And I think the policy allows that discussion to take place and that evaluation and
I think it'd be easier, particularly at the scarcity of it being used, to change that to 1.
we had this discussion for quite some time during negotiations, and we settled still on 2 and didn't change the language, and I think that all of your ideas and points we brought up, but we felt, and were addressed, but we felt, well, I think we all felt there, that, well, I don't think it's ever been an option that, I mean, we've never actually done 2 before. I mean, now we could, because we're kind of making it known in this public meeting. But it is up to the board to say yes or no to any proposals. And if it doesn't seem feasible because it's a bad economic year, then it's not feasible. And that's up to the board to say that, because we understand as the association that we're also, like you say, taking a cut too. I mean, as far as the district's costs, there are costs that would affect every teacher as well. So, but we feel like it's a privilege, really. It's a professional courtesy of an educator who we love education and we love to learn ourselves. And if we want to do something that is productive for a year or whatever the time would be, and felt like it would bring back something useful to the district, then we felt like it was something to keep as an option for our members. So,
Well, I think you describe it well as a perk, because that's not available in my profession.
right, it is a perk.
It's not available in my profession. Okay, tell me what then was the intent behind in number 1, where it says reason of additional academic study or training. What, I mean, that is so broad and wide open. What was the intent that additional academic study and training is?
This is old language, that's old language, and I don't know who wrote it, but there are probably educators who would say that they're going on sabbatical for reasons other than academics or training that would better the district and want to still get a salary, a partial salary and benefits. And so this way it locks into that it is academic, that it is training that will benefit the district and not a venture or something else like that, where it should be a leave of absence instead of a sabbatical.
Chelsea's doing a great job, by the way. I haven't had to say anything. She's doing great.
Sorry.
But number one really is the key to what we were talking about, because it really does put all of the control on the board if you choose to do it. And what we like about it is that it doesn't eliminate the possibility. We don't know what kind of scenarios the future might bring. Would there be benefit to us, to send somebody to get specialized training, or if we had a scenario where we had a position that's like impossible to fill and we need somebody to go get certified and licensed to do that, it's a possibility with this policy, not a guarantee, and we haven't done it for a long time, and who knows if we ever will do it. But we liked that, with unknown circumstances and situations in the future, that there's a possibility of, it's just one option that's available to the district.
When I first reviewed this, and I don't think number 2, where it says 2 educators, I don't think I felt the impact of the money constraints than that I do right now.
Right.
And like 1 is like a big commitment for the board right now. 2 is what's making me personally feel, I don't know. I just don't know.
It almost feels to me that granting the money for someone to go on sabbatical is almost something that we have to talk in negotiations about, because it's going to, that's how we
Yeah,
budget the money,
it's-
that we'd almost have to go to negotiate and say, are you willing to give up $65,000?
A request for a sabbatical,
Sabbatical,
it's a negotiated item.
Well, no, I don't want to go there, but I almost feel
Like they
It's a
should know what
huge
that
financial
means,
commitment.
what it
Huge financial
means to
commitment
them.
that's going to affect negotiations, because we're taking money from Peter to pay Paul, and you're Peter.
Now, how much did we say, Darren said it was, did we say
I think about
$100,000?
$65,000.
$65,000 a year.
Depending on what year of
You know,
employment
because-
they're in.
Yeah,
Percent.
yeah, depending on their.
Yeah, that's if they take a family insurance plan while they're on sabbatical. If they're a single coverage,
It'll be less.
it's significantly.
But if you're a 10-year employee, it's going to change also.
If you're, yeah, you're.
You know, so you've
also
got
if you're
time.
yeah, if
All
you're
of that.
20 year, but.
Yeah.
Or it could be a little bit lower.
And 2, like, I need time to think about it a little bit.
And on number 1, I wished we could define training and study, just a little.
Yeah, and of course, as it's written, it's completely left to the discretion of the board, but it's putting subjectiveness.
Yeah, I would like to have that
Into this,
defined for
yeah.
us a little better.
And I like objectiveness better than subjectiveness. It does give latitude to what could be applied for sabbatical, leaving it this way. But traditionally, I grew up in an educator's home, and sabbatical, everybody that I knew that took a sabbatical, whether it was from the school district or the college that grew up around me, it was to get a degree. It was to get
Get your master's degree.
get a master's or a PhD. That was what a sabbatical was for. Today's environment, certificates are
Yeah, I was gonna
sometimes every bit as important as degrees are. And so, to me, that's the feeling of a sabbatical versus a leave of absence.
I don't know exactly, but I did go on a sabbatical myself personally to become a school counselor.
For a degree.
And so it did help me finish my study, to do my internship hours as a school counselor. And that was probably the last time a sabbatical was used, and it was only for 1 quarter.
But
instead of
that was
almost,
certificate, if it wasn't for the degree, it was for the certificate, to obtain your certification.
it was for my degree.
It was.
It was for your degree.
So if it said that in their degree or something that, or certificate or
But
But I
something that
don't
defined
know
it.
that's my problem, is that I don't know every training or study that's out there. And there could be somebody else who has a really good training program that would take them a year or whatever to do. And education is changing, higher education is changing in how they do things, that I hate to be too specific, honestly. I know that puts a burden on you to have to decipher if it's worthwhile or not, but I also feel like it's part of your responsibility as board members to say if somebody's doing something that you think is worthwhile for the district or not, and to say yes or no. And I had to go before the school board too, long before I did this all the time.
I think what Chelsea's saying is, I don't think we're gonna be able to take out all subjectivity in a policy like this. And I do agree with her, although I think she said that's why we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah. Where my
It's
big
at least a good thing to come before the board, because we do have to approve all financial expenditures, and this is a pretty healthy one. So I think that's probably the best you're gonna get, is to bring it before the board.
Yeah, it leaves, this solely leaves us with the decision.
Mhm.
And we're not here, we're not burdened with restriction, but we're empowered to decide.
And that's what I liked about the number one, was that, a board of elected representatives get to decide, is this something that's gonna benefit our district enough to justify the cost?
It almost seems like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misinterpreting the board, but it's almost like if we could get our head around something tangible that came with that training, a certification, a degree, maybe that.
So
language needs to
does that mean that they'll come to us or
Maybe
not?
what we can do is
Make that
have
part
this
of
as
it.
our
That's a good
policy and
'Cause that could be
framework,
just the
and
superintendent
then
does it.
write some internal
well,
rules
or
about what
he may
we
turn it down.
consider
Yeah, but I'm saying.
when we're doing
Yeah,
this. And so the teachers will know, these are the things they're going to consider when you're talking about academic study or training. And obtaining
agree
a
with that.
degree, an additional degree or certification certainly could be, say, we are going to consider that.
See, I would like to go to Chile to study the literature, but,
What do you want to know?
I mean, I want to do it, but I'm not sure that, like, if I got a degree after doing that empowered me to
fact,
do
if
something
he's-
for students, that would be
He's still
different, but
alive, I could introduce you to a Chilean board.
So I think that's part of what you're asking the educator to bring to you and to defend.
Yeah.
They have to defend their reasoning for you to pay for them to
Yeah.
do this for a year. And if they can't give you a good reason to go to Chile, why they want to go to Chile, then they can request a leave of absence where they can.
Every reason to go to Chile is a good reason.
Is that where you went? I meant another country, I just said that.
I mean, Argentina.
There's no good reason.
The best steak in the world.
Number
Well, that's just
one,
because they learned it from the Chilenos.
number one says the superintendent may recommend the school board.
Does that mean he can deny it outright, or he can make the decision without the school board?
That's not the intent. The intent was that,
No, it says
a
the school
request,
board grants right there afterwards. I think that's fine.
that the request would be forwarded through me to you,
Yeah.
is what we
It
meant.
can be stopped at the superintendent is what that means. Right?
And that's not the intent. We
Well,
wanted
that's what
to
it
come
says.
But that's what
forward.
it says.
So should we adjust that? I don't think
That
that was the
that
intent, was
would-
it?
No, and that's old language too. We didn't, that wasn't the intent, no. But the superintendent will recommend.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to say.
Look forward or, yeah.
We'll recommend,
No.
No,
Will
just,
forward request to the school board.
yeah,
You have to be like in good standing, I do that.
speaking of this kind
You have to be in good standing. I mean, like, I could see, I think the superintendent would forward those to us, but like if there's a teacher that is just not eligible for,
May.
he may not
Superintendent.
forward.
but he could tell us that when he brought, I mean, he could give us that information.
True.
that could be part of your decision.
Yeah, that would be.
This is where the word may should be instead of up
That's
above.
what I was saying, May.
What is the thing about it?
You have a dash right there?
You do, you got it.
It's because it thinks I deleted something,
Okay.
so it's just the red delete sign.
Oh, that's just for him. Yeah.
It's a sabbatical.
It's not as,
It's not a C. yeah.
Sea batical,
Where am I? Oh,
sea biscuit.
just wondering, but I know.
there we go. So now it says the superintendent will forward sabbatical requests to the school board. The school board may grant a sabbatical leave to an educator for professional growth and improvement, so on and so forth.
And what about number two? What are we thinking about number two? It's really a money issue.
Well, and we can say no.
Yeah, and
That's-
that's, I think we can say no. I think if we,
There is a good
Up to-
year.
yeah, well, and
We could
I
leave it
mean,
there for it, but
knowing and having worked with the legislature is not above them at some point that becomes one legislator's hot ticket item, and they give us a one line item bonus, and if we don't use it, we lose it. And why can't we use it if we can better the educational opportunities of our students? So,
Well, and one may
Having
be
to-
asking for a semester or a 3 month, and one may be asking for a year, so, you know, would limit that.
yeah.
So is there anyone here not comfortable with just approving this? Now we beat this one up and beat this one up, beat this one up.
There's no,
Are you okay with just passing this one? Move to approve this as a second reading.
been moved to approve policy, what is this, 301.1?
30110.
10.
Yeah, 10, as a second and final reading. Is there a second?
I said,
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? With none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Just note, Lee needs to leave here in a couple of minutes, so if she gets up and walks out on us, it isn't because that Chelsea has
Yeah.
offended her.
Good to know. Thank you.
Assignments and transfers.
Okay, on this one, again, negotiation team worked really hard on this to find the language that felt like addressed, the issues and concerns, and you've seen it already once before.
And we talked about this quite a bit, yeah. Any questions or concerns? This language from board members? Someone ready to make a motion then?
Hold on a second. I know we had talked about something. I just don't see if it's written in here. So let's say worst case scenario, we have a teacher that's on an improvement plan. They request a transfer. They're granted a transfer. That file doesn't,
And it says
They're not allowed to.
They are not allowed to.
Number 2.
okay, that's what I was, because I know we talked about it. I just couldn't see where it will happen.
Are available to career educators not on probation or.
Not on improvement plan, okay.
What is the difference between, I have to think about that in a minute. What is the difference between probation and an improvement plan?
There's really not. If you're on probation, you have to have an improvement plan. If you're on an improvement plan, you can be considered to be on probation. So personally, in my experience, I'm not aware of a difference. I've heard the terms used interchangeably.
But it is possible to be on an improvement plan and not necessarily on probation, isn't it?
I guess that could be true. If it's not a formal improvement plan, that's true.
One is more serious
We're,
than the other.
we're just covering all of our bases with that
Okay.
in there, okay. Any other concerns? Recollections of things we talked about okay, is there a motion?
Can I say just something on the record before?
Everything you say is on the record.
I know, can I say something? I just want to say that the association is, well, I guess I don't have anything profound to say, how to say this, but there is a lot of work that was done on this policy specifically, and changing the word considered was very heavily thought out and vetted, and we are trusting the administration to also be very open and honest in those transfer positions. So this is a very sensitive subject and policy for teachers. And we love this policy, to be honest, we love this policy. And so we are trusting the district to adjust, because we see the confusion with how the policy was written. And so we're trying to specify a little better for administrators so that they can work through this policy and understand what it means better. But there's a lot of investment that was done on the association's part and trust put into the district administrators and building administrators that it will be, I don't know, it's something we want to protect. And I hope that they feel that too.
So Chelsea, are you saying that you want a position to be advertised and presented to teachers before it's considered for an AMPA? That's what, you're really saying that you want them to be aware of it. Is that what you're saying to us?
Changing the word honored to considered is a strong change in language. Honored, it's still a very honored thing for teachers. This policy is very, very, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's one of our, you want to talk about perks, this is like, people don't know about sabbatical leave, but they know about this policy. And so changing that word that voluntary transfers will be considered instead of honored is,
It's a great concession.
yes, thank you. And we want that district will be very considerate of our teachers and retaining our teachers and keeping those positions of the positions of the district that are open to first really consider those teachers, our teachers, and protect those jobs. So
To use the word honor, then it's trusting the honor of the district that there are legitimate concerns with that particular transfer that's being requested, as opposed to, nope, I don't want them.
right,
That's exactly
thank you.
what we intend. This, and we appreciate the CCA working with us on this, because this is a big deal for administrators too, because if we just leave the word honored, it means you're saddled, and no matter what kind of situation that might create for you and your teams and your school, you have to accept it. And so this was definitely a give and take here as we worked through it, but we do want to make sure that we stayed up front. There is a huge benefit to the administrators also to accept transfers. And we want to continue to make sure that this policy is followed, so that teachers have an opportunity to transfer when they want to. And only if there's really a significant, legitimate reason for denying it. And otherwise, we don't see any reason why we would ever want to deny that transfer.
If we want to totally destroy our relationship with the teachers.
We want the teachers to stay. We want them to stay forever. We want them to be happy and good at their jobs. And a lot of times the transfer helps us to accomplish that.
This was a true compromise.
So item number 7 on there, explain to me why that's, what that situation would be. I guess it's the new number 6. I don't have a.
Oh, the new number 6, okay. We had a situation where we had a teacher who put themselves in the pool and said, I want that position, was given the position, and then said, never mind, I want a different one now. And so rather than saying, well, now you get to just bounce from one to the next and kind of say yes to this one and then no to that one, and then say, we just said, you know what, if you put in, you're going to accept that transfer, or if you don't, you're offered that job that you said you wanted, and then you don't accept it, we're not going to keep doing this forever. You're going to be removed from the pool
Till the next year.
until the next year.
But yeah, see, the problem is one job came available and moved for it, and Chelsea's job came available, and that's a better job than I wanted.
Right, so, yeah, that, if you don't accept the transfer that was offered, once you put into the transfer pool, then you're no longer in the transfer pool, is what number 6 is saying.
So in reality, then, an educator applies for a very specific location and position.
Yes.
Yes.
They have always been very specific about it. So, we want the administrators to also be able to say, hey, we gave you the information and now you're not going to take it, then that puts them they're 2 weeks behind getting it posted and doing all the
Right.
job searching too. And we understand that that's a frustration on their part. So we want to say, we're okay with saying, is what I should say, that if they, in that time period that they put in for the pool and then they decide they don't want to move to that building and they don't want to move, that's great. But then you're out of the pool and until next year.
So then, the filling of that transfer, is that based on first in time, first in right, or is it seniority? Is
Well, if
it,
there's more than one, I believe it's addressed.
yeah, if
here.
there's 3 or 4 people who apply.
And it's an interview.
Yeah, it's an interview situation, but you're not interviewing outside candidates, you're just interviewing those that are in the pool.
Okay, so then it's an interview and the building administrator gets to pick which of the 3 or 4 candidates they want.
The committee.
But yeah, the
Well,
interview committee.
Well, 4A,
Yes.
4A just says,
It's, yeah.
it's just stating the benefit to this, to the principal. You can bypass the whole interview process by accepting a transfer. And
Assuming there's only
it's a,
one.
and it's a great, yes, assuming there's a
Assuming there's only one. So if there's more than one, there has to be an interview.
Yes, that's how it's been.
Yes, that's not what this says.
It's
Right.
It's always been, and that's how they want it to
Yes, how it's
stay.
been.
Okay.
That's how it is.
Because now it changes how it's always been to the fact that the administrator doesn't have to interview. If you've got 3 applicants, the administrator just gets to choose which one they want.
Well, and maybe that needs to say if only one applicant.
That's what it's supposed to say.
That's what we intended it for,
There you go.
to say that. And
If there's only
applicant.
Okay. Any other concerns?
Let me just
Melissa,
look
do you
at
have time
number
to look it
one.
over? You want to go back up and look at number 1 again?
So the not having another transfer sooner than a 3-year period, that go over okay? The association?
3-year period, what? Oh, once you've been granted,
Yeah,
You're not.
you can't request another one for at least 3 years. They're
Yeah, we
okay
don't-
with that? No qualms?
The intent was not to have people just hopping.
Right, no, I understand that.
yes,
But what if you need to transfer them?
Well, you can always apply for an open
you
position.
cannot apply for a job.
And the school can always make the transfer.
That's what I mean.
Involuntary
An
transfer.
involuntary transfer. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't stop that.
Okay, is there a motion? Again, this is a negotiated policy, which would be the preference of the association that we move it to second reading.
I make a motion that we accept this as a second reading, second and final reading on policy 301.11.
It's been moved. Is there a second? No, we let her just die on the
Lack of
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 301.12, orderly school termination for educators.
I'm interested to see
Man,
what kind of feedback we get
I
on
am
this
going
one.
to sleep really well tonight after all these hard, heavy duty.
Well, here's a heavy duty one. We have a change. Instead of saying this was policy CDCFGF, whatever, we're saying it's referring to policy 343.
That's it, that's good.
Move to approve as a second final reading.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? None. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're beating us down. This is a Darren strategy here.
So with provisional educator with 301.16, the CCEA asked us to try and figure out a process for determining who's going to be a mentor for a new teacher. And we really liked the idea, and we already had a process in policy for principals to determine who is needed for prep time payment. So we lifted that language and put it here. So now we are saying that principals, instead of just saying, hey, will you be the mentor? They have to go through a process where they're going to provide notice, and the teachers who want to do it apply, or at least notify the principal and say, hey, yeah, I want to do it. The school level administration still selects who is going to be the mentor, but now they know everybody who's interested. And so that's a much better process from our standpoint. Then, of course, when instructional coaches are not provided the mentoring for a professional educator, the principal will follow the procedures outlined up here.
So
So-
that part was needed because the Castle Valley Center is a building who doesn't really see themselves as secondary, and they don't see themselves as elementary, and they don't have an instructional coach in their building. And so we wanted to have that little caveat for them so that they knew that they were to follow that procedure as well.
I really like that we include the necessary qualifications, because mentoring can, especially in second year, can be very content specific. You know, like, if you're a great English teacher, that doesn't mean you can coach the math. So I think that's really good. I like it.
Okay, any more discussion?
But I might be able to help that. There are exceptions, but generally.
As long as it doesn't go more than 20, like an hour. Fingers, toes.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we accept policy number 301.16.9. As a-
1.6.
Oh,
Point
1.16,
1.6.
1.6 is the whole policy.
for, is this a second and final reading?
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any
Aye.
further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
She's gonna set a timer, and if we don't, a second in a certain time.
Well, this one may take a long time.
Yeah, this one's another hard one. We
Move to
really,
approve second,
yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
second final reading.
Okay, it's been moved to approve policy 301.21, addressing district concerns. Is there a second? Yeah, there's a nod. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay,
There's one more, just jump on it.
zipper clause, is that what we're on?
It's
Yep.
going away.
Yeah. Any concerns with deleting the zipper clause? Because if there is, you're in direct opposition to everything you've said in the past. Okay.
Pretty much.
But so here's a question, you're not making a motion to approve 301.22,
You're making a motion to eliminate.
to delete, yeah.
To delete.
Go ahead, you got it halfway done there.
Move to approve policy 301.22,
Delete.
delete, what'd I say?
Approve.
Oh, delete. Remove.
It's been moved
Sorry.
to delete policy 301.22. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, on this one, Micah gets to come up.
Well, that's not our.
Whoa, that's not ours.
Oh, that's not, I'm not even on the agenda. I'm sorry.
Michael,
Oh, yeah.
you woke her up down there.
Okay, what did you know?
Okay, I apologize. That's a little preview.
Yeah, so it's there if you want to go ahead and look at it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
apologize, I did not load the minutes or warrants. I missed the last meeting, and in my mind, I felt like I had missed the meeting.
So, but we do have the minutes.
I did the minutes.
Okay, you did the minutes, I didn't do the warrants.
Someone's got your back.
Yeah, if we have the minutes of June, I don't know if we had the last week's minutes, I didn't,
Yeah, you took minutes
I
last
did
week.
those.
okay.
The warrants are missing, I'll propose the 2 months worth at the next
Okay. So is there
So-
any discussion on the consent agenda?
The only thing on the consent agenda is the new hires then? So what I'm seeing?
Okay. Any discussion on that we need to move to closed meeting for? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that's on the consent agenda. There really is no discussion on the motions. Cover that, try to cover that before. Okay, well, thank you, everyone.
Move to adjourn.
It's been moved to adjourn, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Next meeting is August
12.
12th. That's right. The next meeting is August 12th.
Oh.
Craig?